And there we are. We're live. I don't know how much of a delay there is. I clicked it pretty fast, so it should have been just popped right into me. There we go. Another week of Legends Live. Somehow I've been making it back in on Fridays. Another Friday of Discovery Camp. Afternoon, Glenn. Hey, Robert. Finished up out there. We finished up just a little early. I hightailed it out of the Superstitions and made it home probably just about a half hour ago. So, yep, the new intro. Hey, Lacey, how you doing? So, it's 66 today. This morning was a bit cool. It was down around probably 35 degrees when I left the house. And it was very, very windy all morning. So, it had to be down close to 30 degrees with the wind chill or lower. Hey, Arthur. Hey, Dennis. And hey, Brent. So, we're kind of rolling right through into it and all, but yeah, so it was pretty much like a madman's drive clear across the valley and get in here in time to do this. So, and I did make it, so there is always that. But made it in Discovery Camp, which is actually on its 25th anniversary. We have these really cool little buttons we're giving out for the 25th anniversary of Discovery Camp, which is we have third graders. Today we had 120 or so. Let's see. Yeah, about 120 third graders come out. We teach them gold panning, take them on a hike. Liberty Wildlife brings out hawks and snakes and owls to show them and talk about wildlife. They get an indigenous culture talk. And Jack's out of the room. Out of the blinds. Come on. But, and then what else? They do ranching where they get to show them how to brand and the branding irons and the whole deal. And then they go up and they rope these wrought iron cows, teach them with lariats. I think that's about it for the stations. And then they have a lunch program. Today they did have a beekeeping. Someone was showing them about beekeeping. There's what a beekeeper does in dealing with bees. But I'd say one of the most popular is probably ranching and gold panning because they get to pan and do stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. So we're already having a beer. It's always 5 o'clock somewhere, as the clock on the wall always says. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So there you go. Hi, Wayne and all. On season 1, episode 5, can you describe the booby trap reel? Great things to do for the kids. Hello, Wayne and all. Hey, Dallas, I was supposed to call you. Dave was going to send me questions for you that I'm supposed to ask you, so I will be calling you. And it's supposed to be some question thing I'm supposed to ask you for the Dawns of Arizona. And they keep forgetting to send them to me, so I may call you just to ask you some random questions, like what's your favorite color, to get it out of the way. Because it's absolutely silly and stupid how long they're taking on that. Anyways, hey, Dallas, so we are out at Discovery Camp. I'm sure you joined in and caught that. The booby trap thing, that was kind of like, we walked into that, and they took us by there, and I looked at it, and I went to walk back in, and I saw kind of how the pitfall works. And then I looked, and I could see where the wire had been across there. That actually was there, and it was very old. And that's what it looked like to me. And I was like, stop, guys, hold on, back up. Because I'm looking where it had been. It wasn't freshly dug. It was an old pit in between going towards the back there. And they wanted actually to send the cameraman in there right behind me. I think he was right behind me. And I was like, no, everybody back up. What the hell is this? Now, the wire obviously is broken. And that was, it was honestly, I was just going, what is this? Well, and I said, there is that type of pitfall where you trip and you fall into a wire or something. It doesn't trigger an explosion or anything like that. But you could mess yourself up, break an ankle, break a leg. Something bad happened to you falling on that wire, that sharp wire. And then, of course, our question was, well, did something actually happen because the wires broke? Because someone had to have cut the wire. And we're going through that. We sat back talking about it. And the part they left out of it, which was very cool, is we're talking, I look it over, this big scorpion comes up out and starts crawling up this rock and crawls up Magnuson's leg. And I had to tell him, don't move. And he's like, what? And it's like, Magnuson, I'm gonna knock this scorpion off of you. So there was a bunch of scorpions in that pit too. And then we sent Glenn Evans to film from the inside out after we checked it out and all. But yeah, for whatever reason, that was actually all just there. And that's what we kind of thought it, because there was no other principle why they would have done that and had the wire across and done. There was no other reason for it. So that was something that was actually just there. And so maybe we read into it wrong, but that's what it looked like to me. Thanks, you did. Well, you don't want anybody to get hurt. That was my main thing when we filmed, is constantly to stop people and make sure people got out of places and everybody was okay. Because they generally were kind of stupid, head in the clouds. They walk up one day with an action packer with a Gila monster in it. Hey, check it out, dudes. Look at what we found. Okay, one, you can't mess with it. You shouldn't be messing. Oh my gosh. Now, that was constantly happening. They found a tarantula. They started playing with that. Of course, if the tarantula gets irritated, then it puts out that stuff, and it'll get all itchy. It's like poison ivy and stuff, and it irritates your skin. It won't kill you, but they can bite. If they bite, it's very painful, but not poisonous, not venomous. But they were always doing stuff where I was having to say, stop, stop, stop. What are you guys thinking? What are you doing? So, have you worked with the Blind Frog Ranch folks? No, I was asked when I did Unexplored Unexplained. That was the same production company, which is Carga 7, that did that show and started it. And they contacted me, asked me to be part of that before it was a show. I don't know what it was called. They never told me the title, but they explained everything. And I kind of saw what it was, and there was a little bit of a financial problem there between us. Because I didn't really want to do the show. I didn't want to go to Utah. I didn't want to do the show. But I was willing to do it for proper compensation, I guess you would say. Because I felt like Unexplained, Unexplored, I did okay. Beyond Oak Island, I was fine with what I did. I'm fine with what I did in Legends. But I was worried about... Man, I don't know if anybody can hear that. Javier is really dragging something heavy out there. Get out of the window. It's just Javier. Yeah, it was kind of weird. They contacted me several times, and this is before they filmed the show, and they had, as weird as the whole show is, the mess it is of all throwing things at the wall all the time. That's kind of how they pitched it. And that made my alarm bells go off. You're not even trying to hide some of this stupidity. And so a lot of stuff they've come up with and done, they were talking about things. What would you do? Do you think we could get away with this? And I didn't know the area, and I didn't see a reason for me to be on the show. So to me, it was purely, if I'm doing this, it's purely about, I have to make money at it for the time away from work. But otherwise, I'm not really interested, because I really I'm not into any of that stuff. I mean, it sounded like the basic principle, selling principle on the show, and if you go back and watch the first episode or whatnot, is them to drill into that underground area where they'd found gold on the bit from the drill. They drilled down and got gold. They never addressed or brought that up, and ever mentioned that into the show. Now the dogs will be howling. But it's funny. My pack of coyotes. So it was kind of that, and it was like, so I gave them the numbers of Eric DeLille and Terry Carter. And I told them Terry Carter lives up that way. DeLille's closer. And one of them might be really interested. Terry Carter never told me one way or the other, because he knows those guys. I just think he just doesn't want to be on TV. DeLille got the call, and he was supposed to call them back and never did. And I think they just ended up moving on. But yeah, I tried to pass it to DeLille. They must have contacted some other people, and then they ended up with Eric, who he had to be through the Feldmans or someone, because they were contacting all of us. and they ended up with Eric, and then I think through Eric is how they ended up with Josh. Josh eventually decided to do it. I don't know. So, did you and Sal ever go to the Barry Storm Cave? No, Sal's so hard to work his schedule with. He doesn't drive. He seems to think he never has days off. Jackson, no. Just turn around and walk back out. But, yeah, so Sal's so hard, when we talk, it's always plan something and then nothing. So, thank you, sir. I was curious if there was any overlap in historical discoveries. No, I just make fun of them. The Josh Feldman show. So, but I watch it. I haven't watched this week's because I'm behind. There's a show on television right now. It's on Netflix called American Primeval, which is a very cool show, and I've been watching an episode of that. I don't watch a ton of TV, so I started watching that. So everything else has been DVR'd, and I'll catch up that stuff this weekend. So I haven't seen Oak Island or Blind Frog Ranch, which are the only two shows I DVR. And I watched American Primeval, and I'll watch the last episode of it tonight probably. And then tomorrow I'll catch the others up. So don't spoil it. I like to see the silliness. I like it fresh. Getting to that cave was very tight, but 3 grown men made it. One of Chad's tanks. Okay. Well, Tony... I don't know. I never, that show there, you got to do a good job of creating the real illusion. They try to cut shots fast so you don't catch that there's daylight behind them or they're in different places. I think they try to go, oh yeah, now that we're past that point, now there's no more debris being stirred up. Okay, remember the sonar thing supposed to be traveling in a current quickly down through this thing, but then they're in this spot. There's no current and there's no sand or nothing washing through. It doesn't make any sense. So it's a show for entertainment, so have fun with it. Yes, poor Chad. They're gonna kill Chad. He's it's like he's in South Park, near-death experiences. Hey, take the camera and go, oh, it's an earthquake. And so when they did that, and then, well, no, they tried to kill Dwayne in the poison gas mine that we never explored further, right? We just kind of forgot about that one, washed it out. Then we had the showdown with the SUV where they all stood there like, OK Corral, and that one never resolved or was ever talked about again. It's some weird stuff. Yeah, American Primeval. If you have Netflix, watch that show. That is a really cool show. It's nicely paced, has some nice stories. Cinematography is cool, and it probably is pretty realistic about the times and stuff where the Shoshone were far cleaner than any of the white people around. But very, very, very cool. So I guess that's my pick of the week. If you've already watched Sunsets by Trevor Tuttle. Yep. Available on Amazon Prime. Always go out there. Have you ever found any arrows, not arrowheads? Yes, I know where there's some arrows up in, I won't say the area, but there's a place you could tell someone had stayed at one time when they were hunting in a certain spot in the Superstitions. And I found where they'd had a small fire, but they'd been making arrows, and there was probably 5, 6, 7 shafts leaning up, and you could see where he was with Sanu, had been attaching the arrowheads and stuff and working on the arrows, and they were laying kind of upright, actually. Oh, there's something going off. Heard it. Anyways, they were laying in the corner of this alcove, and there was something else there. I'm trying to remember what else was in there. Anyways, I got pictures of it, but I saw them because you don't know how old they are, but they were very old. I didn't touch them or anything. Once I saw them, I just kind of looked over at them, took a couple pictures, and then just left it be. I think I've only told 1 or 2 people where they're at, and told them the same thing as, hell no, because the reason I ended up in there was really kind of, I don't know, you get that thing of where you're looking at something and you go, I wonder, and you think, nah, I'm halfway there anyways. So I just decided to go up there and look. Yeah, there was just something about it. I was like, it's a great lookout point or something. And I think that's where he'd been kind of like sheltering when he was out hunting. He's like Mickey from the cereals commercial. Have you ever found... Okay, we did that. Last question. No, this is the last question. Are you interested in the recent Mesa Boogie dual rectifier? Have a great meeting. No, I'm not. No. No. If we're talking model amps and modeling and stuff, I've played through one Mesa Boogie my entire life, and I was not a big fan of it. There was Pig Nose. I played through those. I didn't care for those. I hated PV. I hated a lot of amps, and I ended up sticking with just... I figured everything I wanted I could just get out of a Marshall, a Fender, or a Vox. And the way they are anymore, they have their presettings, which I hate. All these little effects built into them. I don't like that modeling stuff. I just like a clean, regular amp, and then let me add to it whatever I want. But, okay. Nice, thank you. Debris from making arrowheads, napping. Yeah, but there was something else in there. It was the arrows and something else laying in there. I'll have to look for the picture now and see what it was, because it's laying over there beside it, and I was just kind of like, oh man, it was a very cool find, to find all the stuff like he'd been there. The stuff was sitting there. And what do you think about the Peralta fish map? I think it's authentic. We had some testing done on it. It appeared to be authentic. No, I don't know what... It wasn't feathers, nothing from the flight. It was something completely unrelated there with it. I'm going to have to look at the photo, or else my memory's going to have to come around. But I always felt like Frank Fish, the story got kind of weird with him trying to retell it, but I think he went down to Mexico, found a family of Peralta, said there's 2 family members had maps. This is one we have. He got the one map. There's a reason he kept it from public eye and everything. No, not getting in the blinds. I can see you. You're not invisible. Okay. To the public, maybe you're invisible, but I see your little self running through here. But, yeah, everything about it just kind of made me feel, man, this is one of the few things I feel like could be really authentic. And then during Unexplained, Unexplored, we had some testing done on it. I was very surprised they didn't do that, other than looking at it and doing some photographs and stuff. They didn't kind of do it. That's one of those funny things with television, is they'll test something. I mean, I give Oak Island credit. At least they test stuff constantly and show you the results, and you get to see it. Even if you don't understand it, you'll eventually kind of figure out what you're looking at. And they'll do stuff, and then they just won't follow it up. And it's just like, we should have really kind of done that. I mean, we should have posted all the stuff when we did the Matchbox and some other stuff. And we used, we did analysis on all those things. We should have put out and showed graphs and showed the actual numbers. And they think, oh, that's kind of boring. Nobody's going to care about that. But the problem is, at the time, I wasn't taking a picture or getting a piece of paper, so I don't remember what any of this stuff said or what it really was. And it would have been neat just to put that up there. So, live program is the best. They've actually sometimes done well, sometimes not. I don't know what David Villa... Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I don't know what isn't great. What happened to that Ron Engelman guy that supposedly... Oh, Ron Eagle? Are you talking about Ron Eagle DeAndre? Ron Eagle died. He passed away of cancer a few years ago. It's been a while. It was before Rick Gwynn, and it was around the time of Tom Colborne. So it's been a while, but because I think that's who you're talking about, Ron Eagle. He had that treasure stuff, and he was always trying to get treasure trove permits and do that stuff. Really nice guy, great guy. But Ron, we found out I heard that he was sick. He'd found out he was sick, and it was like 4 or 5 weeks later, someone said, yeah, he died, and that was it. But I'm pretty sure that's who you're talking about. The guy was the military veteran, always wore all the military stuff and all. Yeah, it's kind of shame, because 2 guys I always loved to run into out at Goldfield or somewhere. They always were around each other. Was Dave Chase and Ron Eagle. And Dave, everybody would know, is the guy who did the whole Indian paint get-up and stuff, and had the tomahawk and run around in Goldfield and over at the museum, Chief Running Mouth. But that was Dave Chase, and I miss Dave a lot too. Dave was such a happy dude, man. I miss being around both of them. They were always two guys that really greet you warmly every time you saw them. Thoughts on the Gonzales map? I don't know. Shoes kind of thinks that it's one of those maps that is too hard. There's too many various problems with the history and where it turned up and stuff. And it depends which Gonzales map you're turning up. Because, when Glenn McGill said, the first time this map was ever published in a thing, was around the time Killer Mountains, but then you find out it was published prior to that. It's hard to track stuff down. It was just like the discussion we had. Most people think of the San Francisco Chronicle article in 1895 is like the big Jacob Wald's Lost Dutchman. There was tons of articles before that, and a lot of local ones, and there was some out of state. But that was the one by P.C. Bicknell that everybody likes to thumbtack to the wall. Because one of the earliest ones is when Julia's coming out of the mountains in August of 1892. And that was one of the first ones talking about them being up in there. So, what did Bob Shoes use to locate them? The mines he located, well, he wasn't sure if they're Peralta mines. It was Hank DeAndrea, Ernie Saviano, and I believe Basil Zaccardi came out with them. They're all from Chicago Heights. And one of them, there was an old Bible. And there was something in the back of this, in the Bible, in the binding, on the back, like the back cover. And it was like stitched, it was like sealed in there. But they could tell there was something in there because it wasn't the full size. It was like kind of odd shaped, folded up. So they carefully slid it open to see what this was. Is like, because they were thinking it was, family memento. Maybe it's cash. So they opened it up, and it was this map. It's that map he has, and the Shoes has a copy of it in his version of Thunder God's Gold that he published. And that map had those mines, and he placed all those up by Hackberry and in that area. I've seen a few of them, and then there was one thatch mine he couldn't find. If that's what you're talking about, that was Shoes' Peralta mines that he looked for and found most of those up on that. And he got that from those guys in Ed Hudak. So, and I don't know if Ed's still alive. Basil is. Unfortunately, Ernie and Hank are both gone. So, but that's kind of that story with that map. It's one of the two maps I always thought was possibly authentic. The fish map and that map. And I think Shoe said he had that map tested, and it showed it was from the period. So both of those, whether they are the Superstition or whatnot, are time period accurate. Or boulders. You see heme-shaped stones on the top of the... Well, there's all kinds. It depends what you're looking at and how your mind works. Howard Hornick used to see everything and everything. I sometimes could sit there a week and look at it and not see it. So, I don't know. Hey, Wayne, what's the worst, best camping pet peeve when staying over the night with a new person? Well, I don't do it anymore, so I don't have to worry about it. What's the worst thing with a person? They just don't bring the right stuff, and they make themselves miserable, and you got to hear about their misery the whole time. It's probably the worst of it, because most of the time, even the worst, there's going to be a moment. I did the story on Bobby, but that had to be tops. But most of the time, it's that thing where that person repeatedly just things go wrong, everything's wrong, and you can't get out of it. It's like a vicious circle, and the person creates their own problems, and you're just kind of stuck there in the midst of it. And you don't really want to be mean or anything, but you're just kind of wearing out and getting tired of it. When I was younger, I was far more humored by it, probably disgusted. Today, Bobby wouldn't have probably made it out of the mountains. I would have probably just left his butt there. I don't know what the other guys would think at that point, but Yeah, that's usually the pet peeve, is just someone who thinks they know and thinks they can, and then you get them in there and they realize they don't, and when they realize it, they're just overwhelmed. And that happens with a lot of people. And it's one of the reasons I don't go in with a lot of people and don't do a lot of, like, when there's stuff I do, it's by myself or just certain people, because it's hard, because I don't have the patience back in there anymore. I'm older, and there's more risk for me. When I was younger, I was stupid and didn't care about the risks, taking dumb people in the mountains. Now I'm kind of like, okay, but that can give me problems and cause me problems, and I don't want problems. It's meant to go out, have a good time, and do what you need to do, and then having someone that you have to babysit. And I know people say, well, no, I'm kind of experienced and I'm good. And you know what? I've heard that a bunch of times. They were outdoor enthusiasts. They were, well, there's no problem. Jesse Capins, the guys from Utah, Adolph Ruth, Walter Gassler. Yeah, let's just keep naming down all the people that died in the mountains that were perfectly capable. And it's just so, yeah, well, it was pet peeve. My pet peeve in the mountains people. Who are you rooting for this weekend's playoffs? Nobody in particular. So my Bears suck. And they suck eternally. Until they fire the coach and get rid of the ownership, we're stuck. Just with a bad team. Or do they wander off getting lost? Well, there's a lot of people that wander off. I've never had anybody get totally lost. Because I kind of keep an eye, because you can tell those people that just kind of get turned around. There's people that get 50 yards away and can't find their way back. So, yeah, it's not so much the wanderers. It's just the people who think they know and they're well prepared. When we did Legends, nobody was prepared well for what we did except for me, because I worked in the sun. I worked in Arizona. I worked outside all summer. So I was doing things to preserve myself, because I realized it's 7 days a week. It's just going to be a drag. We're going to wear down as we go over 6 to 8 weeks. The others, I saw it, and there was a lot of problems. And it's just, I see the word dehydration up there. Dehydration it's just heat exhaustion, heat stroke, dehydration. There's just only so much you can do to prevent so much, and your body can only take so much. If you spent most of your life working in the sun, your tolerance and your adaptability to everything is different. And so I lost maybe 2 pounds filming Legend of the Superstition Mountains. I didn't really lose any weight. I kept my weight on. I never felt that dehydrated. I got banged up here and there, but no, it's none of it bothered me. I was just fine with it. The others got beat up and banged up, and I saw it in Frank. They can be proud of their pride and stuff, but towards the end, I remember around week 6, Frank would always be talking to me, and I realized Frank wasn't talking anymore. He was usually right behind me, and I would hear DeLille and Magnus, and never heard Woody, because once we were moving, Woody was just trying to hold it together, but I could tell Frank was burning out, and it's just, you're burning out. And he didn't have a lot to burn on his body, so that was part of that problem. And it's nothing good, bad, and different about it. It's just, it's going to break you down. None of them were Arizona desert rats. Traveling alone has its benefits. I like traveling alone because it's quiet. Beer, bourbon, or herb. Bourbon. Always bourbon. I'm okay with some beer, but nah, I'm not an herb guy. Oh, that's just because of the job. Can't do that. Like construction, only strong survive and show up and perform. Well, and I was a roofer, and I worked for the electric utility company, and I was a framer, and I've spent most of my life working out in the sun, so I understand how to just go out there and beat myself up all day out in the sun, so that's a lifetime of it. You have the scars and the wear and tear from it, but yeah, and it's called, you work in the cold and you work everything else, but yeah, everybody can't take the summer off in Arizona. We just have to work earlier, but we still work when it's hot. If I asked you this already, Paul, what are your thoughts on the horse heart and the 7 on the mountain? Is this about the stone maps, Dallas? Because if it is anything about the stone maps, that type of thing, I don't think much of it. I think there's people that have done things and changed things. There's numbers through the mountains that people have done over the last 30, 40 years. Once the stone maps got publicly acknowledged in the 60s, a lot of people started creating a lot of things in the mountains. And Tom Colborne talked about that at times, of just like, it's a shame because it's literally people are trying to create their own fabrication of their own lie. And it just sucks. I think the older you get, where it's in dehydration, I don't know. There's some potassium. I think the thing, you're either a person that needs a certain amount of fluids and you need to know how much fluids. If you work in the sun all the time, you know where that capacity is and how to acknowledge it and understand it and know when you're bad and how to deal with it and mentally look at yourself and say, okay, it's different. If you don't do that stuff, then there's a bigger problem. So I think Dallas is talking about Bob Ward's book. We'll have to get it together and talk about that. I think a bunch of hippies made it, probably. It would not surprise me. Okay, along with 40 years pro guitar, I spent 15 years in pro land superbike. It was a trek and a hunt. Yeah, but I liked working in the sun. That was one thing that was kind of odd because I started out completely different, a different path. And then I kind of really recognized I liked working outside. I liked the sun. I liked the cold air. I liked this. I liked that. I didn't mind it. And I kind of liked the people because they were just uniquely different. They were uneducated. And I just liked that freedom and the fresh air and stuff. So it kind of, you can smoke on the job. Don't tell anybody. Oh, I can't smoke on the job. I can't do any of those things. Yes, because there's testing all the time. No, it's a safety issue. And that's what I tell people is like, it was funny. I can tell this story, I guess. I was interviewing someone for the job. And this young lady came in, and she had a good education background. She had a great personality. She really could talk. Great communication skills. Everything kind of checked all the boxes. And you always get that feel of someone that I think you'll do really well at this job. We'll get you trained and all this. And I was like 100% like, and then I said, the only thing here is, there's zero tolerance on marijuana, any drugs, anything. I know it's legal here, legal in Arizona, but even with a medical marijuana card, it's just not allowed because of the operation of what we do in operating company vehicles and equipment. And that's just the way it is. And she said, well, I smoke marijuana and I need it, I smoke it and it's a regular thing I do because it's medicinally because of my anxiety. And I was like, do you have anxiety because you don't have a job? Well, yeah, that's one of my problems. And I said, quit smoking pot and take the job. You might get rid of some of the anxiety. She didn't find that funny, and she ended up, I told her, I'm not even going to try because you're just going to fail the test. So, because everybody has to go through that. If that's what you were talking about. Oh. Cheeseburger coming up a little there. I heard there are Amish communities. I don't know if I've ever run into an Amish community out here. Someone could inform me on that. I don't think Amish. My parents used to visit Amish communities back east, and my dad would get me wood carving stuff and stuff from the Amish communities, but I don't know of any Amish communities like settlements or towns that are all Amish or anything like that in Arizona. I'm sure there's some people who are Amish, but I've never seen the Amish like, okay, I live in the hottest place on earth, South Georgia. You live in the hottest place in the earth, South Georgia? I did live in Mojave Desert. Okay, Mojave Desert might be okay. That at that time, Mojave Desert pretty hot. Always know direction will help getting lost. Oh, there you go. Hey, top of the afternoon to you. Hey, I would give up my left arm before I give up weed. That was that girl. Maybe that you were the person we were trying to hire. That was her thing, and I was just like, okay, well, it's just the way it is, and I think that would have been, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, my choice is the job, so it's not a big deal to me. You smoke pot for every reason. There you go. Happy weekend, everybody. Happy weekend, Diane. No Amish, check Iowa. I live where when restricted access. I wish Rick Gwynn could have found a treasure cave with a skeleton on Lust for Gold. Can you elaborate more of that story? Yeah, Rick said there was this tunnel that went up under these rocks, and it opened into a room. And there was a table, and there was one or two people sitting there in chairs, skeletal remains. And there was musketoons against the wall. And then there was a book on the table. And then there was a ruby and some other stuff, a large ruby, and some things, jewels and some stuff, and some chests, and coins and other things. And some other random stuff in the room. I can't remember every detail because it was quite a detailed story. And then there was an opening into another area, and there was gold bars stacked in that back area. And he said another person had showed it to him, and Rick had been in there. And then Rick went to leave, and they heard Bob Ward outside and all this stuff. I know where Rick was digging, and Rick dug and never found that tunnel. He said he showed us. We did film, and briefly on YouTube, we had a video up of where he said the tunnel was. Myself, Frank was there, Paul Shimmick was there. We filmed it. Trevor was there filming, and we were checking it out. But because Rick was going to do the Lust for Gold stuff with Robert May and Bob Brown, he asked me to take it down off YouTube. So I took it. We should have find it someday and put it all back up now that the movie's out. But we filmed it, and we had a lot of questions. And Sal was there. Rick was there. Rick's son was there. Marshall was there. There was a whole bunch of us out there. And it just kind of the story, and nothing could line up. And we were talking about it. And Frank and I were trying to figure out, and this is because of Kesselring, too. Robert Kesselring had his little stick, which made no sense because his stick, which has its coil and its ability, depth and everything, wouldn't seem to be as strong a signal or as powerful as some of Frank's stuff with coils and stuff, metal detection equipment. So I was having problems with when he's talking solid rock and he's seeing open chambers and stuff. I wasn't buying a lot of it because he was trying to explain the science like, I'm a rocket scientist and I'm really smart, and so you're not really understanding what I'm telling you. And I'm thinking, no, it doesn't make sense because I'm not stupid and you're talking down to me, Bob, but I like you and we're friends. However that works. So I didn't understand the whole encompassing thing, but they did dig. They had a backhoe. They dug a bunch. But then they dug in a completely different spot. They drilled holes down through there. Nothing. They never hit nothing. They don't think they hit a cavity of any sort any time up there. And then someone else told me, well, they were digging in the wrong spot. And I told them, well, where were they supposed to dig? And they told me in a different spot. And I went out and looked at it. And I thought, that doesn't make any sense either. So we found a spot that kind of fit Rick's story. It doesn't have a table. And that was my first thing, is like, okay, there's a little tunnel you got to crawl in, right? Yeah. How'd they get the table and the chairs and everything in there? Because it doesn't make sense. And then everybody got quiet and said, but you got to understand. And I'm like, no, I want to know how the table and chairs, did they build them in there? How did they see? If there's this low, small table, they're going to freaking die of carbon monoxide poisoning in no time at all because there's no ventilation in this place. I was overthinking it, I guess, as far as that was concerned. But we went out there when Rick would dig and hang out and talk to him about it and stuff. Could be talking about Mennonites. I don't know many Mennonites out here either. Communities. Isn't Furnace Creek the hottest town on earth? I don't know. Phoenix, Arizona is hot. That is true. It is hot every time. Well, if you come in January or February, it's nice. Today it was about 30 in the morning, and high was probably about 65. So, but yes, Phoenix is very hot. I like people that it's like I used to run long distance, and I would go back east and run in the humidity in Ohio and West Virginia. And it was easier running there. It's hot. You sweat a lot more. But the 90-degree, 90% humidity, it was nothing like the baking 110, 5% humidity of Arizona. It bakes you, and it just tears you up. So, no. The dry heat, it's the difference of like being in a sauna and then sitting in an oven. I mean, if you can get in a sauna and it's really hot, and you can say, well, it's a little too hot, I need to adjust the sauna. You get in an oven, you're just cooking. And that's what the heat out here does. It's very different. And it's hard to prepare for it because I think you almost need to be here and spend time in it to prepare for it. What was the oldest date on the coins you found in those little caves? I think it was was there an 1885? Trevor was here, he'd know. I thought we wrote them all down. I know there was one that was like 1900 or 1901. There was one that was 1895, 1899, and I thought there might have been one from the 1889 or 1891. I'll have to go through them. I'll look at them. I'm in Ohio. Yep, that was when I go back and visit family along the Ohio River. So out there by Steubenville. In the mineralization, too heavy in the mountain for dowsing. If you feel dowsing works, then there it is. I use it to find electrical lines, pipes, things like that. I can use it for cavities and stuff because that's what I think the principle of what it really works for. But if you're dowsing for gold or other things, I guess if you think it's going to work out there, you can only try. It's shitty out. It's shitty out from, I don't know. Was that Morgan's? They were I gotta hold it. Well, I'm not going to go grab them. We'll have to do one I'll have to write them down for next live we do. And write them down and then bring them out and show them all. And then the years and stuff. So, I know they're sitting on a shelf somewhere behind me. I just don't know. There's one I found in Fish Creek, unrelated. And then there's the group that we found at Burns Ranch. Frank has a good handful. He found dimes, quarters, $50, and he didn't find a silver dollar. And I found mostly silver dollars. I found a big group of silver dollars, and I found a couple 50-cent pieces and stuff. But yeah, and Frank didn't have a silver dollar, so I gave him some. And then we gave one more away at the rendezvous. We raffled one off, and I believe it was Woody got it. I think. Okay. Dayton. That's down south. I used to fly into Dayton and drive up to Steubenville. Then we realized it was easier to go into Pittsburgh. Tom Colborne have more info, and his writings may be sold off in the estate sale. His writings were not sold off in an estate sale. His writings went privately to someone else. That's that. It's what you would discern from it. Tom was a bit of a closed book on a lot of information. I think it was preservation and protection of certain things. Some of it also, but once Tom started writing books and really getting them, people, I think, betrayed his trust and got up to some tomfoolery. And then would do things like say, oh, Tom don't know nothing. Why would you listen to Colborne? And I think it just kind of jaded him with a lot of that. He was a really good guy. And he forgave a lot of people for a lot of stuff he probably shouldn't have. But I think when I got to know Tom, I found I didn't know what Tom thought of me, and then I just suddenly realized Tom was telling me a lot of stuff, and I was kind of like, there's some connectivity. So, but I also realized it was kind of like with some people is I needed to walk a certain line with Tom because I realized if I did the wrong thing, I would lose that connectivity. So Randy and I, there was certain information gotten. I would tell Tom, hey, am I allowed to tell Randy this? Yeah, okay. So a lot of stuff that Tom told me, I've shared with other people that know the same information from Tom, and we can talk about it. But a lot of stuff I just wouldn't talk about because Tom would make clear sometimes just, I prefer you never mention this to anyone. Okay. And, it was nothing earth-shattering usually, but I think there was a problem with people got too conspiratorial and thinking all kinds of wacky ideas and stuff, and I think that did him in, is he would give out information that could have been used in a more positive light, and it got used negatively, and it got to be gossipy type crap, and it was taken the wrong direction, and I saw him get angry several times about things people would ask him. But I think he was at the point where it was a story I heard about Reinhard Petrasch, is like he would talk about the Dutchman, but then people would act like, what do you know? Really, you knew the Dutchman? And then he would just shut down and say, yeah, I guess I didn't. I guess I'm an asshole. And I think Tom got a bit of that too. He got a little jaded, which is a shame. But most of the time it happens because you're friends with someone and then you realize you can't trust them. Who they're talking to, what they're saying about things, and how they're dispensing knowledge and all that. I don't want to get too much into that, but no. But yeah, a lot of the knowledge that Tom took with him we'll probably never know. And there's other things that might come out someday, but I don't think it's going to be anything earth-shattering. I got stuck behind a horse and buggy doing gigs. I'd like to see them. His writings, or the silver dollars, okay, because I'm trying to put the conversation together. I don't, you'd have to look at the footage of what they were. I know the ones we looked up, we started looking at what they're worth, and then I told Trevor because he was looking them up, and then I said I don't really care because of the Burns Ranch story. And today we just had that discussion. That's funny because Greg Davis, myself, Kim Johnson, we were with Greg Welsh, and we were all standing up in the Superstition Mountains, and we were walking, and I stopped and I looked at Greg Davis and I said, I'm one of the few people you'll ever meet that's actually found gold in the Superstitions, and I've actually found treasure. And Greg Davis looked at me and said, you're right, you actually have. And I said, yeah, I said, I never really thought about it that way. And I said, not a big treasure, but I found things, coins and stuff, not just artifacts. And yeah, it's just such a cool story how we ended up with that, and we ended up filming it just at the time it happened. I mean, the odds of that happening, again, I just picked up I thought it was a quarter or 50-cent piece, and I was like, Trevor, film this. This is funny. Hey, I found, I was just being sarcastic and just making fun of the fact that there were supposed to be these buried coins. And then I turn it and I look at it and realize, hold it, it's a silver dollar. What years? And then I'm realizing, what the hell? And I'm looking down and yeah, completely changed. But that was a very cool moment. I've talked about it quite. We got it filmed. But yeah, I'll have to do that and look at those. But yeah, I'm never going to get rid of them. I got rid of the one at the raffle. I figured I'd share one. But yeah, the others I'm just going to keep because it's not even sentimental. It's like, I did find treasure, man. It's pretty damn cool. And even if they were worth, I don't think they're worth that much, but even if they were worth 1,000 or 2,000, it's cooler to keep them. Information I wouldn't tell anybody. The honey hole. Where did Tom's dad look for this? Needle Canyon. Him and Herman Petrasch spent a lot of time in Needle Canyon. And on the south side of Weaver's Needle. He spent it in some other areas, but they're primarily primary area was Marsh Valley, and then the inlets from Boulder down into Weaver's or Needle Canyon, Needle Canyon between Weaver's Needle and Bluff Springs Mountain. And his partners were a man named Herman Petrash, of course, went in the mountains with Abe Brunson, and then God, I can't remember the other guys. Leif, I can't remember his last name now. LD, his last name ends in is a D. Leif. Oh, I can't remember it. But anyways, that was, it was some family members, friends, different people. Glenn Ward was in there with them. They spent a considerable amount of time. They told their wives they're going on fishing trips, and they went into Superstitions. So, but that was the primary area they searched. And I know there was a few other spots, and it's funny because in the journals that I was allowed to read, which I felt very privileged by, George Colborne even writes, I can't believe we keep finding these mining tools and these different things in this area, because this is an area there should be no mining. There's no way possible that the mine is in this area, and it keeps proving me wrong. So it's funny that he kept thinking, man, we keep coming back to this area because of stuff we're finding, and this doesn't make sense. So that was, the irony in that. Wait, it's okay. It was a perfect timing. Me finding this stuff and all. Yeah, that was it was a weird thing. Speaking of Tom, did you ever check out the Circle Ring by Rogers Canyon? I don't know when you're talking about. Finding coins while actually filming. Made the episode great. Yeah, and it's, things do happen like that. When we found that old knife from 1900 up on Bluff Springs Mountain with me and Randy, it was just me going, dude, climb up there a little, look in that alcove, see if there's something in there. And it was just like that. And then he found, next thing I know, is this thing's flying through the air down at me. And I'm like, what the hell? And then it was this old knife that was stamped 1900 that he'd found up there. Weird stuff, So sometimes you're just kind of like, and you're looking at it as from the point of view of, it doesn't look like anyone's been here, but it looks like someone might have been here. One person might have left something somewhere. And Frank Augustine's thing is, there's always a guy like Magnuson who leaves crap laying all over the place. So, but yeah, the weirdest part about the coins is we've never found anything else. There has to be more. There has to be more out there. It's just finding that particular spot where whatever they were doing, it would pick it up. And I know there's several people who have spent a considerable amount of time, but we proved, whether it was Henry Burns or Bob Ward that buried that jar, somebody buried it. I'm going to have to get those down and write them out, because I know they're up on the shelf somewhere. They're up on the shelves there somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. I'm not going to go back there and dig around right now, find them. And I'll try to look up how much they're worth. But again, that's not the deal for me. Dutch. Even if you find the lost mine, where is the money in it for you? Eventually, you won't have anything you claim for publicly. I don't need to claim it publicly. I don't have that problem. Okay, well, if you could film and show that it had that gold, which you could, video processing and all, you could take some gold out and be fine, and then go back and say, well, look, there's plenty more in there. And, you could play. There's different ways to play the game on that. Old Ron Feldman. I'll have to let Ron know that he's old Ron Feldman. You've made it now to the big time. You're old Ron Feldman. He's found gold up there in them hills. Yeah, Ron likes to say that. He also bought gold from John Cochera and several other people and stuff. I like Ron. Ron's good people. Man, let's not make fun of Ron. Okay, Dutch retracted his message, which I'm getting too old and I forgot exactly what I was talking about, because I kind of But you can do something about things. And I've told people, I say, get some burros. Take some burros back in. Pack as much as you need out. Come out in the evenings or early mornings before anybody's getting into the mountains at times. And then when you're done, just turn the burros loose in the wilderness. Mountain lions will get them. Burros will be fine. Just, do your thing, whatever you need to do. It's not all about publicity. Remember, I was happy moving along my way, and then Randy Wright said, no, dude, you got to do the show with me. If it hadn't been Randy asking me one evening, please interview and do the show with me, I had zero interest of ever doing this. I never wanted to write a book. I never wanted to do anything. As things continued to fall out, and then Tom's gone, and things have changed in the world, I realized there needs to be someone speaking about this stuff and carrying on that kind of the Dutch hunter and the Dutchman and the history and stuff. I don't need to be doing a channel trying to make a buck or playing the old man game. It's nice to have something relevant, or maybe hits the basis for regular people everywhere. So, Jax, you stay out of the blinds. So he turns right around and goes back out. Smart dogs, You need Sherlock Holmes of Native Americans. They know where to find it. I'll tell Doc, though, if I found the gold, I'd keep my pie hole shut. Yes, that's what you should do. Appreciate for being a voice for the past, Wayne. Yeah. The first two Apaches I ever found that I found, that was me and, God, his name's Terry. I'm trying to remember his last name. I've said it before. It's tough when you got so many people and so many names over so many years. Dean and Morris. Terry Combs. Terry Combs and I were up in the Superstitions, ran into two Apache kids stoned on hash up in the mountains, and they were lost. And they were not going to find their way out, and they were only about 50 feet above the trail. But, you couldn't see the trail in anything. And, they were stoned out of their gourd. So we did what you should do. We sat down, got high with them, and then showed them the way out. But they were lost and turned around. It's I don't know. It's and Terry found it amusing, and I said, the indigenous people of yesterday are not the indigenous people sometimes of today. Different people, different strokes. They were out there checking things out because they wanted to see what all this was about, which is what happens when a lot of people get lost, right? Came out to check what it's all about. I'd like to leave now. Would you show me the way out? Hillbilly Bob's Relic Hunter. So it's Hillbilly Bob's Relic Hunter. So do you own a Relic Hunter, or are you Hillbilly Bob the Relic Hunter? Because it's plural Bobs. Are you bipolar? Good show tonight. Time to drink to Bob Ward. We can do that. I was reaching right, and I should have went to the left. But all the good that I've done in this stuff, it worked out for me. I'm fine with. I would have spent less time in the mountains, but probably had more fun in the mountains and been far more active internally in the mountains if it wasn't for the show. So it kind of changed the step and changed how I approached a lot of things, I think. I think sometimes the better. Circle stone supposed to be lighted with solstice. Yes, that's what they say, above the firelight trail. Yes, they say that. I went out there, and the hippie people that I was with or whatever doing satanic people, I don't know what they were doing. They weirded me out, and I left after the first night of them doing their weird crap. Ron Feldman searched for the Los Adams diggings. Yes, it's always controversy with him and Shoes. I know they've partnered and they're friends, but Ron's like, Zigzag's got to be out here, and Shoes said, no, they're over here. And Ron's like, Silver Chief is the Dutchman, and Shoes like, no, it's the Bulldogs, the Dutchman. No, they never agree on anything. Business, they must find some place to compromise and agree. Where's the best time of year to head up into the mountains? Probably coming up. I would say we don't have much wet weather, but probably towards the end of February and into March, April, even early May. The weather's really nice, but then the snakes start to come. So, but that's the best time of year to me. I'd say March and April is because it gets warm up enough in the afternoons that it feels good. I'll be back. Okay. JB. Jib. I don't know. Here's to swimming with bow-legged women. There you go. Would you go partners with me if I took you to the mine? Could you take me to the mine? Would I go partners? Why would you want me to partner with you if you know where the mine is? Or do you want me to get the stuff out? I'm honest. I mean, I don't know. It'd be cool to see whatever. I've been to a lot of Lost Dutchman mines. I've been to some of the Lost Dutchman mine. I found the Lost Dutchman mine, and I will take you to it. And I've been those places. I've went with people before. It's not always worked out as well as those people thought. The best one was when there was no gold or anything in it, and I said, well, where's the gold? And where's even a vein in this? And you do realize this is a natural feature? Well, yeah, but that's what the Dutchman's mine always was. And I said, but where's where they got the gold out of? Well, you can't see it. And I realized, okay, we're done here. I think I walked out of that one by myself. Those are the stories I don't tell, is because it's embarrassing and it's kind of stupid. And you don't want people to be out there going, Bobby Benzel, say howdy. So March is the best time to visit. Yeah, I would say March is one of the better times of year because you'll be out of the wet season, hopefully. The weather will be milder. It won't be as snappy cold because right now it's pretty cold at night out there. Bobby Benzel, the thing about Bobby, he has the name. He should have been a hair metal drummer in the 80s. Bobby Benzel on drums. See, it sounds perfect. You just can't go out there toting a shovel. Yeah, you can. I go out there with a shovel. We've walked out there with a metal detector. No, you can walk out there with a pickaxe. There's nothing against the law with taking a pickaxe or a shovel into the Superstition Mountains. Absolutely nothing. They cannot stop you from doing that. They can't stop you from a lot of things. Now, they say you can't file a claim, but you can prospect and check for samples, and then you have to go to court to process and start dynamiting and do that. That's where they stick everybody, and where people can't proceed. But in the late 80s, after the closure, there was still people blowing crap up out there. Don't ever get that wrong. And I'm sure it still happens occasionally out there now. I'm not out there as much as I once was, but I'm sure people hear it occasionally. So, I mean, if you got the burrows and stuff, and there's people that still spend a significant amount of time prospecting back in those mountains looking, and they are digging. I wanted to take a week off from work in March to get out there, a little exploring. And it's fun just to walk the mountains, man. That's my favorite thing and all. But Dutch, hey, Dutch wants to think he knows where the mine is, and I don't have a problem. And, someone thinks they know where the mine is. It's funny. Some people have actually trusted me enough to tell me the directions and give me the coordinates to their Lost Dutchman mine. And I said, yeah, I'll go out and I'll take pictures and stuff. I don't, whatever. And then I went out and took pictures and stuff and told them nah. And then I explained why and sent them back the pictures I took and why they had gotten things wrong or certain things, and they get upset. So, and it's, you feel like you're not, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just being like realistic about it and saying, yeah, try again. And they don't like being hearing that, like Denton Run Gold. So finding gold in the mountains can be tough, and when you find it, you got to remember not to cut. Woody's albatross is, when you find gold in the mountains, quit going back there every time the rest of your life. Sometimes there's no more gold, and you have to move on and find a new spot. You may find a new spot, you may not, but wasting your time digging in a spot that has nothing showing after a few years, no, you need to move to something else. And that happens to a lot of people. That is a gold hunter's nightmare, but that is something that happens to a lot of people. So we're going for a sample. I always pull samples out of the mountains. And then I check with Greg Davis. Greg Davis got a lot of samples out of a lot of old mines and stuff, and I look at them and stuff. But yeah, I got samples from the Silver Chief, some different ones, but I got them more for personal reasons because of stories related to places in the mountains. So I got them not for samples, but samples as like from certain things, because of Ron and Jesse and Josh and Mick McPherson and everything concerning with the Silver Chief and Jesse's book and Jack San Felice. They got Silver Chief. I had some before, but it was because at the time the big deal made out of it and all, and the association with a lot of people concerning that. So I got that. I got Rocks from the Spiral Staircase, but different places I have things because that's kind of like, to me, a little bit of a memento, I guess. Scars say there's something there. Scans say, sorry. Greetings, Wayne. Sky Cloud showing up late from Gil Gold Prospecting, San Antonio, Texas, where every day is a golden day. Horse feed, chores done. Hot coffee sitting with you. How many times said Dutchman Gold found? Oh, hundreds, if not 1,000. We did, and we're going to be wrapping up here soon. Glad you got in here before we were done, Sky Cloud. But we did a thing, if you look for it, and we might have posted them. This is back when we did Facebook Lives. When Chasing Legends was a live feed I did on Thursdays. I might have done it on Thursdays, and it was just live for however long until I ran out of steam and shut it down, or my phone died. And we did one where I kind of planned things out, and I talked about people who found the mine. And I did like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s of different people that found the Lost Dutchman mine, and that there had been newspaper articles and stuff about them finding the mine. And there was some joking of people that found it like in January in the northern superstitions, and then they found it again by the end of the year in a completely different place. So they found it, lost it, managed to pick it up somewhere else. That happened a lot. There's a lot of people that have found it multiple times in different places. It's just, it is one of the most found lost mines there is, which is one of the problems with people keep finding it. And let's face it, like we talked Dutch, and I don't know if he's still here, but we were talking earlier, and he was saying, well, what would you do? You can't just do this. Well, here's the weird thing. If you went in there and said, I found the Lost Dutchman, and you showed the vein, and then you quoted the stuff that Jim Bark wrote that Julian Reinhardt told him, and you were able to document all that, that starts going to that process to prove that. It's that easy, You can do a shot and say, look, here I am outside here, and now I'm going down the pit, and here's where this is the vein, and okay, so we can show you. You can do a continuity shot. You can do things that will prove where you're at, and things that people will say, oh, he was there. This is actually there. He filmed it. He got that sample. People fall real short of that. They like to keep that shade up, where there's a lot of unknown situation there. So that's unfortunate. So, but yeah, there was the guys from Ohio said they found the Lost Dutchman, and it was a tunnel like a half mile long going through a mountain. And I was like, what? It's like, did you guys pay attention to anything? Well, Jacob Wall Slide, it's really a tunnel. And it was, I think, I don't know. I think they tried to convince me it was like Civil War gold or something. Maybe it was different guys on that one. But there was the Ohio guys that wanted me to sign an NDA just to show me the pictures. And I was like, your story's too silly already. They even brought an attorney. None of that worked out for them. Always appreciate what you do. Have a great weekend. Yep. Didn't think it was found. Heard something news the other day. Well, people are always claiming to find it. Why not? What would be the purity of the gold on the LDM? It would have some copper in it because it'd be superstition. Most everything in the superstition has that goldish, or not gold, greenish. The copper, everything I've seen of superstition gold has that bit of copper in it. It makes the gold a little green. Very hard to see, but it has a little bit of a green to it. So I don't know, the composition can be different because of the thermal events, and there can be two things within a half mile of the other that look like they're identical, and depending where you take and the XRF and hold it, could get very close, and you can move the XRF a quarter inch and it could be very different. There's no real thumbprint to, like we hoped when they started doing that. I think the hope was there would be such a thing as we'd really be able to do that with the geology, and I think we found that most of the ores, the type, they pretty much are close regardless. So the gold would be very, very pure though. Silverlock and Malm spent their lives digging. Yep, and that was that point I made before. Sometimes people find something and they just bang their head over it. They thought there was a mine there. They didn't realize it was just stuff on the ground. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Country Carpenter. We kicked some interesting Superstition mountain butt. Play that guitar. I've got to watch my season finale tonight, too. So I will do that, and I will play some guitar, because I got a couple tracks to finish, too, this weekend. So I got to get the guitars down and make a decision about finalizing some things. Arizona, the Copper State, you're a good man, Wayne. So I'll be in contact. Okay, good deal. Remind me you're Dutch. Or Holland, yeah. Audio, what's up, Wayne? Well, you're at the very tail end. I want to thank everybody for not only supporting our videos, but supporting the music things. The day of the Superstitions, there wasn't a lot happening at the end of January. You will find in February as the new ones pop in. It's going to be really, there'll be 2, 3, 4 a day some days. It's going to be intense on a lot of them. There's some really good stuff through those. So the first one I did was like a page and a half for the month of January. This one's like 3 or 4 pages, and I'll make sure I don't do, if something just doesn't click right. But I think I got most every day multiple times covered for February, so that'll be very quick, very good. But yep, hey David, you and Lacey keep sporting them shirts, man. Thank you for all you do. No problem. And yeah, it was a pretty good show. The last few have been pretty good. We've stuck on Dutchman stuff, and we've gotten a lot of cool stuff. So, but we got to get going because I got to eat dinner too. So I'm on Friday salads now. It's breadsticks and salads on Friday. Yes, weep for me. Light a candle and weep for me on Fridays. But hey, I had a burger earlier today. I had a burger and fries, so I'm good. But yes, so everybody go off, have a great week, have a great weekend. Catch us Chasing Legends on Monday, intermittently when we have the B-roll, because it's having a combination of B-roll and also having the music done, and I kind of feel like it's good enough to kind of release. We'll be doing those things and putting that stuff out there. So we have a couple we were working on and a couple other things, so we want to kind of make sure we kind of keep it in a similar direction vein for a while, and use the stuff, unused stuff that was created for Sunsets, Legends, Chasing, all different things, and kind of push that out there finally. I gave everybody my word like 5-6 years ago that I would do it, and now I'm doing it. I'm slow. But thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a great, safe week. Tell all good night for me. Everybody have a good night. Have a safe weekend. Have a safe rest of the week. And somebody's always going, light one up for us, drink one down for us. Or in my favorite enjoyment is, the best thing of all is take a nap. Naps are good, man. When you get older, you find naps, man. Naps like crack cocaine. All right, everybody, before it gets too silly and stupid, thank you, everybody. We will catch you again next Friday.